All right, Rabosai, good morning. Good morning. Let us begin by thanking all of our sponsors for this morning. Sure to thank our TAMLUD TORAH sponsor for the month of Iyar, an anonymous sponsorship with Hakaras Hatov to Hashem for all of the blessings He has bestowed upon us, and for refuah Shleima for Devorah Leah bas Chaya Rivka. May we all be zoche and Hashem to witness the imminent coming of mashiach. Amen. Our week of learning sponsors: Hilary Jacobson Kent, in memory of her daughter Shifra bas Chana Dena, zichron livracha. Our day of learning sponsor: Paul and Kathy Pollack, with a Mazel to Elaine and Harold Shaindel, parents of fellow member Stuart Shindel, on the birth of a great grandson to Avraham and Ahuva Joffe of Yerushalayim Kodesh. Mazel Tov. And our Daf Yomi sponsors for today: Michael and Rachel Turniansky, leilui nishmas Shaindel bas Mordechai, Jeanette Turniansky, mother of Michael Turniansky. We hope that in the merit of our TAMLUD TORAH, all of the nishmas have an aliyah, the families ein nechama, all of those who need a refuah Shleima to have one together with Kol Chole Yisrael, our hostages in Hashem should be returned to their families, to their people, to their land. Our soldiers should have incredible success, and all of this should happen in Hashem Hira B'Yameinu. And of course, again, we take the opportunity to recognize today being Yom Yerushalayim, the day in which we celebrate the reunification of our holy city, our eternal capital. We witnessed an incredible miracle 57 years ago when HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us back our city, when we were able to hear the incredible words of Harabayis Biyadinu, and in Meretz Hashem, the same way that today represents a day of Nisim V'Niflaos for Klal Yisrael Halavai. Those Nisim and Niflaos should continue to advance forward, should Meretz Hashem continue to materialize into the greatest bracha, the bracha of mashiach, which the bracha of Geula, which we should be zoche Meretz Hashem to see, to experience, to be makabel mihira b'yameinu. Amen. Well, so with that, let us begin. We'll come back in Meretz Hashem if we have time at the end a little bit to Yom Yerushalayim as well. Hope to chap. It's a shorter daf today actually, so hope to chap a couple of minutes at the end to Meretz Hashem speak a little bit about Yom Yerushalayim. So we'll say, well, with this, let's begin. Today's daf is Tzadik Ches 98, and we are picking up on 97b. We left off 2 lines up from the bottom. So remember again, just to orient ourselves a little bit, we had a very interesting case in the Mishnah of actually a number of variations, but all pretty much the same core case, which is I go ahead and I borrow either one animal, two animals, again, various different cases, but the point over here is one part of what I'm borrowing is a she'ela, is a borrowing, the other part is a rental. The animal dies. Now, there could be a dispute as to which part of the day the animal dies, which of the animal dies, because remember, again, there were a couple of different cases, but the Gemara essentially says the owner of the animal says it died during the period of she'ela, during the period of borrowing, right? Or for that matter, on the day of she'ela, or the borrowed animal dies, whichever variation that may be. So halacha l'maisa, and I say, the borrower / renter, say, I don't know. So the Mishnah said, well, in a case like that, what's the halacha? The halacha is I have to pay. The logic being, bari v'shema, bari adif. Right? That when you have two claims, one a certain claim, one an uncertain claim, the certain claim carries the day. So since the owner of the animal is certain in claiming this was a borrowed animal, during the period of borrowing, and I am uncertain, I'm not contradicting, I'm just simply saying I don't know, therefore halacha l'maisa, I have to go ahead and pay. Okay, so the Gemara came along and said that what you see from here, you could apply this to a different case. I go over to Reuven and I say, Reuven, you owe me $1,000. Reuven says, I don't know. So what's the halacha? Reuven has to pay. Bari v'shema, bari adif. I'm making a certain claim. Reuven's making an uncertain claim, and therefore my claim wins over Reuven's. The Gemara then pointed out that there seems to be a refutation of Rav Nachman, because Rav Nachman holds differently. Rav Nachman says, if I go over to Reuven and I say to Reuven, you owe me $1,000, and Reuven says, I don't know, Rav Nachman says, Reuven doesn't have to pay. Why not? Uki mamona bechazkas marei. Leave money in the place where it's established. In other words, there's a chazaka. The chazaka is that whatever money Reuven has in his pocket belongs to Reuven. If I want to change that chazaka, I can do so, but I have to bring testimony. Right? A simple claim that's not supported by, or is not bolstered by testimony, is not going to be able to go ahead and remove money from Ruvain. So therefore, again, the Gemara says the Mishnah clearly doesn't reflect the view of Rav Nachman. Okay, so the Gemara says as follows. The Gemara says, Ki da'amar Rav Nachman ki gon sheyesh isek shvua beinehen. To which the Gemara says, Hachanami ki gon sheyesh isek shvua beinehen. So the Gemara says, no. This could work. This case could work even according to Rav Nachman. Why? Because we'll say it could very well be that according to Rav Nachman, what's the Mishnah dealing with? A case of where already there was involvement with a shvuah between the parties. Now take a look at the last Rashi on the daf. Sheish esek shvuah b'neim shenischayv lo shvuah b'tarnoso v'eini yachal lishava da'ha'eini yodea ka'amar. So we'll say, so Rav Nachman says this Mishnah could even go according to me. How so? We could set this up as a situation where there is an obligation for a shvuah, and because I can't take the shvuah, therefore halacha l'maisa, I go ahead and I have to pay. The Gemara says, "Hey, chidami asek shvuah." What are you talking about? What is the case of asek shvuah? Kid Rava. So it's in accordance with what does Rava say? Top of Tzad B'Ches 90AA. Dama Rava. Mana li biyadecha. V'hala omer ein lecha biyadi elachamishim. So listen to this. So Rava says, here's the case. So I go over to Reuven and say, Reuven, you owe me $1,000. And Reuven says, no, I only owe you 500. Vashar ini yodea. The rest I don't know. Now I will say, so just understand, what's interesting about this case is as follows. At first glance, this sounds like what? Modeh b'miktsas, right? Partial admission. And when there's modeh b'miktsas, there is a shvuah, right? Modeh b'miktsas, I make a claim against Reuven for 1,000. He admits 500, denies the remaining 500. You have to take a shvuah on the remaining 500. This case is different. In this case over here, I'm coming over to Reuven and say, Reuven, you owe me $1,000. Reuven is saying, I owe you 500 that I know of. The other 500, I don't know. I don't know. So I'll say, so what's the halacha in this case over here? So in this case, you can't swear. You can't swear. Reuven can't swear over the remaining 500. Why can't you swear? Why can't you swear? Because we'll say, you can't take a shvuah on an uncertain claim. Remember, you will say, when is a shvuah administered? A shvuah is administered when I'm claiming, Reuven, you owe me $500, right? $1,000. Reuven says, I only owe you 500, and I don't owe you the remaining 500. So now we have a dispute regarding the remaining 500. And remember, again, there's a whole svara, right? The whole svara is that Reuven really knows he does owe it to me. He's trying to buy himself some time. The shvuah will force him to admit. So there's all of this logic. But a shvuah is only administered when you have certain claims. When you have uncertain claims, you can't take a shvuah. Think about this. What is Reuven going to swear? What is he going to swear? Right? I admit that I owe Silber $500. The other 500, I swear that I'm not sure. That's not a shvuah. That's not a shvuah. So therefore, I'm going to say something very interesting happens over here. So we'll say, interestingly enough, so in this kind of case, sometimes in halacha, where you can't take a shvuah because of certain circumstances, so therefore by definition you pay. So Rav Nachman is suggesting over here that it could very well be that the situation over here is where I'm claiming something. The borrower / renter is admitting part of it. But on the other part of it, he's just simply claiming that he doesn't know. When he doesn't know, Rabbi said the only answer to that is pay. Because you can't take a shvuah. You're not saying you don't know. But you're also not saying you do know. And therefore, halacha l'maisa, you just go ahead and you pay. Look at Rashi. Rashi says over here, Havile modeh makes us umechoyev shvuah v'ala shar ve'eni yochol lishava da'amra eni yodea. Okay, so we'll say now the Gemara plugs this in. So again, I will say, just to be crystal clear about what we're doing over here, right? The Mishnah is creating a paradigm where the Mishnah explains that when you make a claim against someone and they simply respond to the claim with, I don't know, the halacha is they have to pay. All right, so if you don't know and I do know, right? So in this case over here, I'm making a claim, Reuven, it was the animal that was borrowed that died, right? Or the animal died during the period of she'il, of borrowing, not during the period of schirus. And Reuven is saying, I don't know. So then halacha is okay, you don't know, you have to pay. You don't know, you have to pay. The Gemara wanted to say, this is not like Rav Nachman, because in general Rav Nachman says, Uki mamona becheskas mare, right, that leave money where it is, to which the Gemara says, no, this can even be by Rav Nachman, because even by Rav Nachman, essentially you could create it as a case of modeh b'miktsas. of a partial admission, where the person is admitting part of the claim. When it comes to the other part of the claim, they're saying, I don't know, and therefore, again, halacha l'maisa, they have to pay. Now let's set it up. Here we go. So, mishkachas l'reisha b'beis, v'seifa b'gimel. So, most of the easiest way to illustrate this is, you could establish the beginning of the Mishnah as talking about two animals, and the end of the Mishnah speaking about three animals. Okay, now watch this. Reisha b'beis. So here we go. For example, the beginning of the Mishnah will speak about two animals. The Amar Le, beis paros masarti lecha. So watch this. I say to Reuven, I gave you two animals. Palge diyomi b'sheila, upalge diyomi b'schiros. So the way this was set up was, you have two animals. Part of the day, I say I gave you an animal, two animals for one day. First half of the day is she'ela, is a borrowing. Second part of the day is a rental. In other words, so the transaction morphed midday. For the first part of the day, you're a borrower. Second part of the day, you're a renter. Or inami chad yom b'she'ela v'chad yom b'schiros. Or both say you can set up a little bit easier. I rented to Reuven. I gave Reuven two animals for 2 days. Right? On Wednesday, it was borrowing, and on Thursday, it was a rental. Okay, so what happened? Umesu tarbayu beidon she'ela. I will say both of them, and I claim, now both animals died. I say, Reuven, I'm claiming that both animals died during the period of she'ela. And I will say, now if both animals go ahead and die during the period of she'ela, then what's the halacha? Then Reuven is chayiv for both of those, right? Because remember again, a shoel is chayiv for everything, assuming there was no baal of imo, because that's not the case over here. So my claim to Reuven is, Reuven, both of the animals died during the period of she'ela, and therefore you are chayiv to compensate me. V'amar shoel, Reuven on the other hand says like this. Listen to what he says. Chada in be'ida she'ela meis. Yep, I agree with you. One of the animals definitely died during the period when it was borrowed. Again, whatever it was, whether it's the first half of the day when it was borrowed or the day that was she'ela, whatever it is, I agree with you. One of the animals died during she'ela. V'idach lo yedana iba idon she'ela mesa v'iba idon schiros mesa. And ultimately, again, but Reuven says about the other animal, the other one, I don't know. I just don't know. I'm not sure what happened there. So we'll say, now watch this. So what's occurred over here? So now this is a modeh b'miktsas, so to speak, right? So Reuven is admitting that one animal died during the period of she'ela. So therefore, again, he's certainly chayv on that one. What about the second one? Now, normally modeh b'miktsas, what does it do? When there's a partial admission, what does partial admission do? What does it do? It triggers a shvuah on the remainder. In this case, I can't force Reuven to take a shvuah. Why can't I force Reuven to take a shvuah? Because he's making an uncertain claim. What's the shvuah? What's the oath? And therefore, again, because Reuven can't swear. Why can't he swear? Because he's making an uncertain claim. So because he can't swear, therefore he pays. Which is a very interesting halacha. So because ultimately, again, you can't swear, therefore again he pays. All right, so Seifa. So we'll say that's how we'll set up the beginning of the Mishnah. Seifa. Look how we'll set up the end of the Mishnah. Listen to this. Begimel. The Seifa of the Mishnah really can be set up with three animals. Watch this. It's very, very, very interesting. Gimel paros nasati lecha. I say to Reuven, I gave you three animals. Beis b'she'ela v'achas b'schiros. Two of them were borrowing, and one of them was a rental. Umesu hani tarti de she'ela, and ultimately, again, the two that were borrowed died. So two out of the three animals died. My claim is that the two that died were the two that were borrowed. V'amar shoel in. So let's watch this. I'll say now. Watch this. Reuven says yes. Yes to what? Chada de she'ela mesa. One of the borrowed animals absolutely died. Idach lo yedana id she'ela mesa v'dekaima deschiros he. So Reuven says like this, I agree with you that definitely one of the borrowed animal dies. What don't I know? I don't know about the other animal that died, right? Was that a rental animal or was that a borrowed animal? And by extension, I don't know regarding the surviving animal. Is the surviving animal a rental animal or is the surviving animal a borrowed animal? So we'll say, so again, a similar case, just more animals involved. So in this case over here, once again, modeh b'miktsas, Reuven is agreeing that one of the animals that died was a rental animal, and he's just simply unsure about the other one. He's not claiming that it's not. He's just simply saying he doesn't know. So on one hand, modeh b'miktsas, in which case you would be tempted to say, well, take a shvuah regarding the remainder, the second animal. He can't take a shvuah because he has an uncertain claim. And therefore, once again, and therefore, halacha l'maisa, since he cannot swear regarding the second animal, therefore, halacha l'maisa, he goes ahead and he pays. Okay. So we'll say, so that's how we'll set this up according to even Rav Nachman. So even Rav Nachman, who normally says, Uki mamona becheskas marei, will essentially agree that in the case of modeh b'miktsas, partial admission, where then again the person, the claimant, not the claimant, it's the opposite of the claimant. It's the person making the claim and the person, the defendant, the respondent, right? The respondent ultimately again is lodging an uncertain response. Right, uncertain response. So in that case, even Rav Nachman will agree because you can't take a shvuah. Therefore, halacha l'maisa, you'll just pay. Okay, beautiful. Now the Gemara throws a little bit more into the mix, which is very, very interesting. Rabbi Bar Chama da'amar dalit shomrim tzrichin kfira b'miktsas v'al da b'miktsas. So we'll say so now. Rabbi Bar Chama says like this: that halacha l'maisa. In order for there to be a shvuah, Rabbi Bar Chama has an interesting formulation, or an interesting, we'll call it, or a criteria. He says that when it comes to the Dalet Shomrim, like the various custodians, Shomer Chinam, Shomer Sachar, Socher, Shoel, in order for there to be an obligation of a shvuah, two things have to happen. There has to be a kfira, a denial of a certain part of the claim, and an admission to a certain part of the claim. There always has to be an admission and the denial. Now here's what's interesting, I will say. So, according to Rabbi Bar Chama, what we just, the model, the framework that we just created according to Rav Nachman would not work. Right? Why wouldn't it work to generate the shvuah? Why not? Because there's no denial. Now again, there is an admission, right, or at least a partial admission, but there is no denial. So how, according to Rabbi Bar Chama, how is Rabbi Bar Chama going to come up with the case? So Rashi says, just even take a look at the first part of Rashi. Rabbi Bar Chama darim dalet shomrim b'shvuas hamuros b'an kigon shomer chinam lishava shenishpa v'shomer sachar lishpa sha'ansa v'shol lishava shemesa mimalacha tzrichin kfira. So again, this is Rabbi Bar Chama's logic is shvuah only comes about when yes, there's modeh b'miktsas, but also kfira b'miktsas. So you have to agree to something or admit something and deny something. How are you going to come up in these cases over here? So the Gemara says, Mashkachas, this is actually very interesting. Mashkachas reisha b'gimel v'seifa b'dalet. This is fascinating. So he'll set up the Mishnah as the reisha talking about 3 animals, and the Sefer talking about 4 animals. Remember again, Rav Nachman had it 2 animals, 3 animals. Rabbi Bar Chama is going to have it 3 animals, 4 animals. Watch, it's really very interesting. So Reisha b'Gimel, so I'll set at the beginning of the Mishnah, it's talking about 3 animals. Watch this. Damrlei, Gimel paros nasati l'cha. I say to Reuben, I entrusted you with 3 of my animals. Palgi diyom b'shela, palgi diyom b'schiros. So the way this worked was as follows. Right, I say Reuben, I entrusted you with 3 animals for a day, for 1 day. First part of the day was borrowing, she'ela. Second part of the day was schiros, rental. Okay, or inami chad yom b'she'ela v'chad yom b'schiros. Or you can set it up as, Reuven, I gave you 3 animals for 2 days. The first day was she'ela, was borrowing. The second day was a rental, schiros. All right, and what happened? Umesu gimel kulu bi'idon she'ela, and all 3 died, and now my claim is, now all 3 animals are dead. I claim to Reuven, all 3 animals died during the period of She'ela. And of course, again, as a result of that claim, what's the halacha? The halacha is that Reuven is going to be chayiv. So that's my claim. All 3 died during She'ela, and therefore you're chayiv. V'amarlei, and now Reuven responds back and he says, listen. V'amarlei shal, Reuven responds back, Chada lo hayu dvar me'olam. Oh, watch this. So first he says, Silber. Number one, there were only 2 animals. So, okay, so we'll say, here it is. Remember, Rabbi Bar Chama has to set this up as dealing with what? Where there's a denial. There has to be some element of kfira. So everybody's going to say, first of all, there weren't 3 animals, there were 2. So that, number 1, off the bat, he's denying 1 animal. The chada in ba'idon she'ela mesa, one of them I agreed died during the period of she'ela. V'idach lo yedana I ba'idon she'ela mesa, I ba'idon schilas mesa. And the other animal, I don't know. I don't know. Did it die ultimately again during Sheila? Did it die during Schiros? So I'll say, so now watch this. Watch what's happened. So on one hand, regarding 1 animal, Reuven denies that ever occurred. I never gave it to him. I never received a 3rd animal from you. Number two, one animal, I agree, died during the period of Sheila, and the third animal, I don't know. So you have three elements over here. An admission, a denial, and ambiguity, and doubt. So Rabbi say, so now based on this, because you have a denial and an admission, that's mod b'miktzos, that should be chai v'shvuah, but you can't swear. Why can't you swear? Because there's an uncertain claim. What is Reuven going to swear? What is he going to swear? Since he can't swear on animal number 3, therefore what? Or really on animal number 2. So there, animal number 3, right? Since he can't swear regarding that last animal that I'm not sure again, did it die during Sheila or did it die during Schirus? Therefore, he has to pay. Okay, interesting case. Seifa B'Dalet, watch this, gets even more exciting. The Seifa, ultimately again, the Seifa will deal with 4 animals. How so? Here we go. I say, Ruvain, I gave you 4 animals. Gimel B'Sheila, Chad B'Schirus. 3 animals were borrowed animals. 1 animal was a rented animal. Umesu Hanach Gimel D'Sheila. And all 3 of the borrowed animals died. Okay, so now watch this. Now Reuven responds, number 1, first of all, one of these animals never happened, right? The chada in the she'ela mesa, right? And yes, ultimately again, one of them in fact did go ahead and die during the period of she'ela. V'idach lo yadana idischirus mesa udekayma de she'ela. The other one, I don't know. Did it die during the period of schirus, and therefore the last animal standing is a borrowed animal? Or maybe it died during the period of borrowing, and the one that's left ultimately again is the rented animal. So I'll say, so once again, you have all the elements over here. What do you have? You have an admission, right? You have a denial. But again, so that would seem, according to Avraham, that would trigger the need for a shvuah. But because regarding the leftover claim, Reuven himself is uncertain, you can't swear over an uncertain claim. Therefore, because you can't go ahead and swear, therefore you pay. So we'll say, so bottom line, the beautiful part of the Gemara over here is everyone is agreeing that what's happening over here in the Mishnah is we have a claim here, right? I'm making a claim against Reuven, and the issue just is because Reuven can't swear, therefore he has to go ahead and pay. There are 3 different models, essentially, how this works. There's the Tanakama model, is what we'll call the Mishnah model, the Rabbanan model. And the Tanakama model is very simple. When I make a certain claim and Reuven makes an uncertain claim, Bari B'Shema, Bari Adif. I'm making a definitive claim that it's the rented animal, that it's the borrowed animal that dies. Reuven says, I'm not sure. Therefore, Allah Chalamayis, again, my claim is stronger, and therefore Reuven has to pay. That's it. That's the Tanakama. Rav Nachman understands over here that there's something else that's happening here. Rav Nachman understands, Rabbi says, dealing with the case has to be a case of multiple animals, where essentially what's happening? I come over to Reuven and say, Reuven, I give you one of the animals. I gave you 2 animals, right? They both died during the period of Sheila. Reuven says, one of them did, the other one I don't know. So therefore that's modeh b'miktzas. Once there's modeh b'miktzas, there's an obligation of shvuah, but you can't take a shvuah with an uncertain claim, and therefore again, since he can't take a shvuah, he goes ahead and he pays. That's Rav Nachman. So it's a modeh b'miktzas case, where ultimately again, the defendant can't swear because he has a non-definitive claim. Rabbi Bar Chama, in order to trigger a shvuah, has to go ahead and set up a case of where there is an admission and a denial. And then, so we have that case. He set it up either with 2 animals, 3 animals, 3 animals or 4 animals. And therefore, Allah Lamaisa, but in this case, so you have a denial, you have an admission, but then again, you have the rest of the part that's ambiguous, unknown, uncertain. And because you can't take a shvuah regarding something uncertain, therefore you pay. So if I will say, so in all of these cases regarding the uncertainty, the Reuven has to pay. The shaila just is, what are the mechanics of it? The Rabbanan, the Mishnah has 1 set of mechanics, Rav Nachman has a 2nd set of mechanics, and Rabbi Bar Chama has a 3rd set of mechanics. All right, incredible. Let's go right there. Says the Gemara, Ze omer shu'ula, v'ze omer schora, Yishava hasocher sheschura mesa. So we'll say another. So here, going on in the Mishnah. So what happens? I lend the animal to Reuven. right? So the animal dies. So my claim is Ruvain, it was the borrowed animal. Now, whatever case this is, remember again, I will say there are multiple iterations of the same case. I lent him one animal for a day. The first part of the day was a borrowing, the second part of the day was a rental. Or I lent him an animal for 2 days, right? One day it was a rental, the second day it was borrowing. Or I lent him 2 animals, one. So whatever the case is, the point is I'm making the claim that the loss was a loss that occurred. So let's just keep it easy. Let's keep it easy right now, right? I go ahead and I claim to Reuben, lent him 2 animals. One of them died. One of them was borrowed. One of them was rented. I claim that it was the borrowed animal that died. The borrowed animal that died. Okay, so now we'll say, so now, and what happens? Reuben claims, no, it wasn't the borrowed animal, rather what was it? It was the rented animal. The rented animal that died. So what's the halacha? Now the Gemara says, now because Reuben can't take a shvuah, therefore he pays. So the Gemara says, I'm sorry. So ultimately again, so Reuben has to swear that it's the rented animal. It's the rented animal. The Gemara says, va'amai. Now the Gemara said, this is very interesting. Why would there be a shvuah? Mashetanu lo hodalo, umashahodalo tanu. So we'll say, listen to this. Why should there be a shvuah? In general, again, I will say, Reuven and I are not talking the same language, right? I'm claiming one thing, and ultimately, again, he's admitting something else. In general, take a look at Rashi. The Gemara says, "Va'amai mashetano lahodolo afagav de'okimna bekolfer umoda hani mili Rav Nachman miu masnisin l'rafun of Rav Yehuda kidiktani va'amai yishava hare ein kan moda b'mikzas." So I will say, now watch this, right? So I go ahead and I say to Reuven, it was the borrowed animal that died. Reuven says it was the rented animal that died. So the Mishnah says Reuven has to swear to that effect. Here's the issue. In general, we'll say, Shavua, at least according to our Mishnah, is generated when there's a motive mixas, there's a partial admission. The problem over here is there is no partial admission. Why? Because that which Reuven is admitting to is not that which I am claiming. Right? I'm claiming that it's the borrowed animal that died. Reuven is responding, it's the rented animal that died. Our claims are misaligned. Essentially, what's happening over here is I'm claiming A, he's admitting B. So how does that generate the obligation for a shvuah? Amar ula ayidei gilgul. This is interesting. So let's say the way this works, the Gemara says, you're right. So how do I get Reuven to swear? How do I get Reuven to swear? And the answer is Gilgul Shvuah. So again, what we've learned about Gilgul Shvuah. Gilgul Shvuah essentially says is that once you are already swearing about something, we could kind of add on a whole bunch of other stuff to that Shvuah. Our claims that themselves would not normally generate an obligation for Shvuah. For example, Devorah Leah. So I said, Reuven, you're claiming that it's the rented animal that died? Fine. Ishtabali ezo mias tekidarka mesa. So I can say to Reuven, okay, you're claiming that the animal died during the period of schirus? Fine. So swear to me that the animal died of natural causes. Of natural causes, meaning essentially swear to me that you are not negligent. So I could do that. In other words, we'll say, remember again, we've seen this before. In general, we'll say, just play this case out, right? I deposit the simplest of cases, right? I go ahead and I give something to Reuven to watch. Reuven is a shomer chinam, right? Now, a shomer chinam has diminished responsibility. So what happens? I come back, right? I give Reuven my cow. Reuven says, I'm so sorry, Baruch MS. The cow died. Natural causes, right? It was happy, it was content, had a smile on its face, surrounded by its loved ones, right? But it's no longer in this world. It's in a better place. Now, I will say, technically speaking, Reuven is pater. But remember again, that claim by itself is not enough. Reuven has to swear to that. In other words, I could take Reuven's word if I want, but I could also force him to take a shvuah. So now watch, this is actually interesting. So now what's happening over here is I gave Reuven 2 cows, right, to watch. One a rented one and one a borrowed one. One of them died. I'm claiming it's the borrowed cow. Reuven's claiming that it's the rented cow. Now really what I want is for Reuven to swear that it was the rented cow, not the borrowed cow. But I can't get him to take a shvuah on that because, again, our claims are misaligned. So what can I do? I can say, Reuven, okay, I'm going to go with you. You're saying it's a rented cow, no problem. Swear that the cow died of natural causes. right? That you didn't misappropriate, that you didn't misuse it, that you didn't abuse it, whatever else, swear that it died of natural causes. Now that I could do. Now watch this. So the Gemara says, Umigu de mishtabed de kidarka meisa, mishtabed nami de schora meisa. It's interesting. And once he's already swearing that the animal died of natural causes, he could what? Also swear that it was the rented animal that died. So in other words, the shvuah that he could be obligated in is to swear that the rented animal died of natural causes. And once you're swearing about that, also including that I swear that it was the rented animal and not the borrowed animal. Okay, incredible. Ze omer eni yodea v'ze omer eni yodea. So I'll say this is interesting. The last case of the Mishnah was, let's say again, same case, all the cases are the same. I gave Reuven 2 animals, one was rented, one was borrowed, and one of them died. And what happened? And neither of us know which animal died. So what's the halacha? The Mishnah said, Yachloku. We split the value of the deceased animal. So the Gemara says, Hamani, whose opinion is this? This is Sumchos Amar Mamon Hamotel B'Safek Cholkin. So also we've seen this many times as well. Sumchos holds that Mamon Hamotel B'Safek, whenever you have a doubt about money, right? Who is entitled to money? And again, neither of them has a definitive claim. Cholkin, we split it. So just remember again, that statement is part of a raging machlokes. What's the raging? Why? What's the disputants? Right? What's the other side of that? What's the other side of that argument? The other side of the argument is uki mamona becheskas mare. No. In other words, money is only taken from a party if you have definitive proof that somebody has to pay. If you don't have definitive proof that someone has to pay, leave the money where it is. Leave the money where it is. Simcha says no, and you have doubt and no one has a definitive claim, split it. So the Mishnah that says over here, one of the animals died. We're not sure which one died, so just split it. Split it between me and Reuven. That's Sumchos Mamon Hamotel B'Safek Cholkin. Okay, incredible. So by Rabbi Abba Bar Mamel, Shalav Bailim, Sach Shalav Bailim. So we'll say this is a very interesting case. So kind of extending the Mishnah a little bit. Watch what's happened over here. So we'll say, so I go ahead, let's reverse the rules here a little bit, right? So I borrow a cow from Reuven. Now we'll say, that interestingly enough, I borrowed it with him. Now we're going back to our previous discussion. I borrowed it with him, and it's Baal of Imo. I'm a smart guy. I paid attention in yesterday's daf. And I remember, what did the Gemara say? If you're a smart guy and you're borrowing an animal, what should you do? Ask the owner for a cup of water, right? So I heeded the advice of the Gemara. So I'm borrowing a cow from Reuven. I said, Reuven, you know what? As we're finalizing this transaction, do me a favor, right? Bring me a Perrier, right? Bring me a Fiji, right? Bring me some Fiji water, right? So let's go ahead and bring me something. Bring me something to drink. And Reuven brings it to me. So now Boss says, so now what happens? So now I have Baal of Imo. So now I've borrowed the animal with Reuven in my employ. Now, we'll say, what does that do? If it's Baal of Imo, what does that do? Potter. Now, essentially, I have a get out of jail free card. Now, whatever happens to that animal, I am covered. So now watch this. Now, both say, now here's where it gets interesting. Sacha shelo b'baylim. Now, both say, now after that duration of, so let's say I borrow it for a week. And after the week is over, I say, Reuven, you know what? I'd like to extend. I want to rent it for another week. So now I extend the duration of my use of the animal, but now it's a different arrangement. It's no longer a she'ela, it's no longer a borrowing. Instead, what is it? It's a schirus. It's a rental. So I'll say, so now, mahu, what is the halacha? So I'll say, so now, let's play this out. So what happens? Week number 1 is a she'ela, and it's a she'ela balavimo. Week number 2 is a schirus. So now let's say something happens to that animal over the course of week number 2 that would normally make me liable. So what's our shaila? Our shaila over here is, does the Baal of Imo of Sheila extend into the Schiros? Which essentially is another way of saying, do we view the Schiros as an extension of the Sheila? Do we view the rental as an extension of the borrowing? Right? And therefore, again, the same Baal of Imo that was present by the Sheila should be present by the sense. Because let's remember again, Baal of Imo works by everything, right? It has the same Torah by everything. So can we extend that to Schiros? Now, so Miyamrina, here the Gemara works it through. Miyamrina, Sheila l'chuda kaima, Schiros l'chuda kaima. Do we say, no, borrowing and renting are two different transactions. And therefore, again, the renting is not considered to be an extension of the borrowing. And therefore, there's no Petur of Baal of Imo during the duration of the rental. Or Or maybe not. Maybe not, Rabbi. Maybe at the end of the day, the schiros is considered to be an extension of the she'ela. Now, why would the rental be considered to be an extension of the borrowing? Take a look at Rashi. Rashi says over here. Rashi says, O Dilma, schiros b'she'ela meshach shayach. Rashi says, Kol chiyuv esocher digneva v'aveda yeshnan b'shoel v'lo hosif klum umachmas mashiach rishona ba'ulo v'ahi bailim haviu pater. So here's what's interesting. So you can make two arguments. Argument number one is the idea that as a socher, I have everything, all of the responsibility and liability I have as a socher was also present during she'ela. Right? In other words, there's nothing new. And in fact, what schiros represents is diminished responsibility, right? So I have diminished, but the same responsibilities that I had during she'ela, I have during schiros. That's number one. Number two, I will say, there is no new act of mashiach. Remember again, when I borrowed the cow from Ruvain, I did an act of mashiach. I went ahead and I took it towards me, right? I pulled it towards me, mashiach. That's how I acquired it. There is no new act of mashiach that's done by schiros. So therefore, again, the same mashiach that I did by she'ila is the same mashiach that works for schiros. So maybe because I did no new proprietary act, and the responsibilities of schiros are also found in she'ila, maybe the schiros is considered to be an extension of the borrowing, the rental is considered to be an extension of the borrowing, and therefore the same Torah of Baal of Imo that existed by the she'ila, by the borrowing, should devolve upon the schiros as well. Such a good shayla. So the Gemara says, or not, or the other side is, no, there are two different arrangements. So the Gemara says, maybe the schiros, maybe the rental is considered to be an extension of the borrowing. Because it will say, again, as a socher, I'm chayiv in many of the same things that I was chayiv ultimately again as a shoel. Okay, so the Gemara says, Imtim Salom. So let's take the question a bit further. Imtim Salom schira b'she'ela meshach shaychi. So I'll say, if you want to say that in fact, a period of rental could be an extension of she'ela. So the Gemara says, then what about the reverse case? Sachra b'baylim. I'll say, what happens if I started out as a rental? I rent the cow from Ruvain, but again, at the same time, when I rented it from him, as we were finalizing that transaction of the rental, I asked him for a cup of water. He brought me a glass of water, and therefore, again, the schiros started with Baal of Imo. Okay, Baal of Imo, and then I will say what happened. After the week of schiros, I extended the relationship, but it turned into a she'ela. I borrowed it. So she'ela below Bailim, Mahu. So I say, now what's the halakha in this case? Do we view, once again, it's the same question, do we view the she'ela as an extension of the schiros? And do we say that just as the schiros was with Baal of Imo, so to the she'ela is with Baal of Imo? So she'ela b'schiros, vaday lo shaycha. So we'll say, on one hand we could say, you can't view she'ela as an extension of schiros. Why not? Because we'll say she'ela is a much higher level of responsibility. So in other words, to say that schiros is an extension of she'ela, I could do that. Why? Because I could claim that like schiros is like a derivative. Right? That rental is a derivative of borrowing. But you can't say that borrowing is a derivative of rental because borrowing is a much higher state of responsibility. So on one hand, she'ela b'schiros v'adei lo shaycha. So on one hand, maybe I could say like this. There's no way that you could look at the borrowing as an extension of the act of rental, and therefore there's no Torah ba'alavima. O dilma, kevan de shaycha b'miktsas, kiman de shaycha b'kulatami. Or maybe, since she'ela does share common features, with schiros, right? There are certain elements of responsibility that overlap, right, with both of these shomrim. So maybe halacha l'maaseh, you can view it as an extension. All right. Imtim salomar lo amrinon kevan d'shaycha b'miktsas kiman d'shaycha b'kuladami. So I'll say, if you adopt the approach that you can't view borrowing as an extension of rental, okay, the Gemara says, then I have the following question: she'ela b'baylim v'sacha shelo b'baylim. What if Jose? Watch this case. What about if I borrowed from Ruvain, right? And again, same case. When I borrowed from him, it was Baal of Imo. I asked him for a glass of water. He was giving me the glass of water. So now it's she'ela b'baylim. Okay. Now watch this. I borrowed Ruvain's animal for a week, his cow for a week. Then after that, we transitioned, right? As the Gemara says, I'm sorry, v'sachar shelo b'baylim. Then I rented it for a week after that. So week 1 was borrowing with Baal Avimo. Week 2 was a rental without Baal Avimo. And then I will say, watch this. V'chazer v'shala. Week 3, I then borrowed it again. So I've got a she'ela, schira, she'ela. Borrowing, rental, borrowing. Now I will say, but what happened? Only the first act of borrowing had an active Baal of Imo. Right? Because remember again, at the time that I borrowed it, I asked Reuben for a glass of water. He brought it for me. It was Baal of Imo. So I was saying, now what's the shaila? The shaila is, what do you do in this case? Ma'u. Hadr asi li she'ela l'duchta. So I was do we say that since, okay, so maybe even if you're going to say that schiros, that rental, is not an extension of she'ela, and therefore during the rental period, ultimately again, there is no claim of Baal of Imo. Maybe when you come back to the she'ela, we view that as full circle, and the second she'ela, the second act of borrowing, should be related to the first act of borrowing, and just as the first act of borrowing had Baal of Imo, so to the second act of borrowing will have Baal of Imo as well. O Dilma, Afsika le schiros, beni ubeni, right? Or maybe no, you can't. The second act of schiros is not a continuation of the first. Why? Why not? It was interrupted by an intervening period of schiros, of rental. So therefore, again, she'ela 1 and she'ela 2 have nothing to do with each other, because halacha l'maisa, again, there was an intervening act or an intervening period of schiros. Okay? So the Gemara says, okay, then I'll ask a follow-up question. Sachra bebailim. So what about the reverse case? I rented the animal, and when I rented the animal again, it was balavimo. It was balavimo. Okay, so sachra b'bailim. V'shala, so also I said, now I rented it, and again, Reuben was bringing me my glass of water when I rented it. Fine, so that's balavimo. I will say, now what happened? V'shala. So I rented it for a week. After the week of the rental, what happened? I borrowed it. I borrowed it for a week. V'shala, v'chazer v'sachra. Then I went back in week number 3, I rented it again. So we'll say, so it's a rental, borrowing, rental. Right? Schiros, she'ela, schiros. The first schiros was with Baal of Imo. So we'll say, what's the halacha? So mi arminan asile schiros l'duchta. So we'll say, do we view schiros number 2 as an extension of schiros number 1? So do we view again the third week 3, as an extension of week 1? And just like the first schiros was Baal of Imo, so too the second schiros will be Baal of Imo as well. Or maybe no, maybe halacha l'maisa, ultimately again the she'ela in the middle intervened between schirus 1 and schirus 2, and therefore halacha l'maisa again, you can't claim any Baal of Imo by schirus 2. And the answer the Gemara gives, teku. Now interestingly enough, the Rambam doesn't apply this teku to all of the cases, right? He says, for example, listen to this. This is in Hilchos Shila Pikadon, Perek Beis Halacha Yod. The Rambam writes, Shala b'bailim usachar shelo b'bailim. It's actually very interesting. So the Rambam writes over here that if you borrowed an animal with Baal of Imo, and then ultimately, again, after the period of Sheila, you then you extended it with a period of Schiros. So I'll say the halacha is Pater Shas Schiros Tali b'Sheila. So the Rambam understands over here that halacha l'maisa, we do view Schiros rental as an extension of borrowing. The logic behind that is because whatever you're obligated as a socher, you are already obligated as a shoel. So we could look at schiros as a derivative of she'ela, and therefore, interestingly enough, if the she'ela began with Baal of Imo, that Petur of Baal of Imo will apply even to the schiros. But the reverse is not true. If you begin as a socher, right, as a renter, and then you go into she'ela, so again, even though the schiros was with Baal of Imo, halach l'maisa, we do not apply that to the she'ela, because we don't view she'ela as an extension of schiros. So again, schiros can be viewed as an extension of she'ela. She'ela cannot be viewed as an extension of schiros, and therefore, if you started she'ela with Baal of Imo, then went into schiros, the p'tur of Baal of Imo will apply to the schiros. But if you began with schiros and there was Baal of Imo and then went into she'ela, that p'tur will not extend into the she'ela. Very interesting. What the Rambam does say is these other cases, the 3-pronged cases of like she'ela, schiros, she'ela, schiros, the Rambam says that's a suffix. That's a suffix. What exactly the status is over there? All right, let's take a look at the Mishnah quickly. Mishnah says as follows: Hasholas haparav v'shalcha lo biyad bino. We've actually seen this before. So Hasholas haparav v'shalcha lo biyad bino, biyad avdo, biyad shlucho. So we'll say, so now listen to this. Actually, we'll say, you know what we'll do is, let's so much to do, so little time. All right. Good. You know, Bosi, let me spend a few moments in Yom Yerushalayim. We'll pick up with this Mishnah Me'er Hashem tomorrow. We'll start in the sugya. We'll say just a word about Yom Yerushalayim. Sorry.